Hi there. So the film clip does a great job of covering Walker's Appeal and Garrison's The Liberator. But there's a couple other things in your outline that I wanted to give you just a little bit more context for. So the first is the American Colonization Society, and then last there you have number 4, the American Anti-Slavery Society. And so for those two things, the American Colonization Society is a group that was made up of both white people and black people. And it's one of the first attempts to try to end slavery. However, from our perspective, it doesn't feel very intentional, because the American Colonization Society said that if slavery ended, it would have to be gradual. We aren't just going to free everybody all at once. It has to be voluntary, that slave owners, this won't be forced upon them, they get to decide. It's going to be compensated. Slave owners are going to get paid for freeing their slaves. And finally, there's a repatriation part of this too. Repatriation is just a fancy word for return to homeland. So that should maybe make you pause for a moment, because what they're saying here is the idea that if enslaved peoples are freed, they're going to be returned to Africa. But enslaved peoples aren't from Africa at this point, right? They're American. They've been born here, right? Because this system that we've created of racial slavery, people are born into that system, as you saw in the laws that we talked about several lectures ago. So to us, perhaps it doesn't sound very intentional. Sometimes people point out, though, that if they had started right from the get-go saying let's just end slavery, they wouldn't have had any conversations at all. But there were people that said let's just end slavery, and David Walker was one of those. And in his appeal, he says, "Tell me no more about colonization. America is as much my country as it is yours." So he's directly calling out that idea of repatriation. And then note 2, he uses the Declaration of Independence to call out the hypocrisy of the American culture and society and government to support this system of slavery. We're going to see women use the Declaration of Independence too. So that theme is a key one. Now, Garrison was a white man who wrote published a newspaper called The Liberator. And he figured maybe he just needs to get Northerners to see how bad slavery is, and then they'd want to end it. So he publishes excerpts of Walker's Appeal. Walker, one of the first to say let's just end slavery, was a person of color. Garrison publishes excerpts of Douglas's narrative, and again, just trying to get Northerners to see what slavery is, and then they'll want to end it. Garrison, though, was also a founding member of the American Anti-Slavery Society. And one of the things this group did is they'd go around and they'd travel, and they'd have former slaves speak. They'd have people sign petitions saying, we don't want slavery anymore. This group was attacked over 150 times in just a 4-year period. Mid-1830s, they were attacked over 150 times. All of these attacks happened in the North. In fact, if they had tried to go south, they would have been killed. This is after Turner's Rebellion, so nobody could talk about ending slavery in the South after Turner's Rebellion and not expect some sort of violent response. So think about that. They're attacked over 150 times in the North. And this is kind of surprising, I think, initially, because we think of the North as all about let's end slavery. And this tells us that might not be the case, that a majority of people weren't even thinking about it, if at all. And then the talks of ending slavery threatens the status quo, right? We're going to have to change the Constitution. It will put black people in competition with white people for jobs in the North. Some of this is also racism, that maybe they want to end slavery, but they don't think black people should be equal. The film clip, the last 5 minutes or so of the film clip, will address, you'll see some of how vicious some of these attacks could be. In one attack, the crowd actually sets a building on fire that abolitionists are in. And then you got a couple of historians after that talk about the privileges of whiteness and why this might have been a threat for Northerners, who I think maybe is surprising to us. All right. If you've got any questions, you can put those in the discussion board. I hope you're doing well. Take care.
I went online and I put into Google